So my day job is Vice President Academic at McMaster Divinity College, but I'm also Professor of New Testament, and I do a lot of research and writing and these kinds of things, and work on translations and things from the Greek New Testament as I'm teaching my courses, etc. And one of the things that I get tired of doing, or got tired of doing, was maybe copying and pasting some text from my Bible software into Microsoft Word, and then having to, kind of manually click through a number of things to format it so that it was using a font that I prefer for Greek font, which is the SBL Greek font. And I also needed to turn off the proofing for that as well, because often when you would paste in Greek, it would try to correct the spelling. The built-in editor would try to correct the spelling as if it were US English or Canadian English or whatever I happened to be using at the time. And even when I would switch it to Greek, it was trying to check the spelling over against modern Greek rather than ancient Greek. And so it would often put the little red squiggly underneath each of that. And I just wanted to turn all that off because I'll correct it manually if I need to, but 99.9% of the time when I'm pasting it in from my Bible software, there's not a spelling problem. So I decided to make a macro to kind of help me with that. So let me kind of illustrate to you what the problem was, and then I'll show you the macro that I created and where I put it in Word so that perhaps you can use the same macro in your Microsoft Word. All right, here on the screen, I'm using my Bible software, and my Bible software happens to be Accordance, which works great on Mac. There actually is a Windows version as well, but there's not a parity between the two. So the Mac version is much cleaner, nicer, works great. But even though the settings and whatnot, for the most part, are synced via the web or via the internet, when I open up on my Windows machine Accordance Bible software, it just doesn't look good. It just doesn't seem right. So I usually just use it on my Mac. Well, I'm working on some texts and translations for my course in 2 Peter and Jude, and I'm ready to actually work on the stretch of text in chapter 2 from verses 4 to 11. So what I can do is just highlight that with my mouse. I can go to Edit, Copy, or hit Command-C on my Mac. And then I'll switch over to my Microsoft Word document, and I can paste it. And it sort of does a little bit of reconfiguring, but you'll notice that it's going through, it's checking the spelling of each word or parts of words and considering it to be incorrect. So it's underscoring all of that in red. Super annoying, and so I don't like it. Also, this is just Times New Roman font, which for the main font that I write my papers in and things like that, perfectly fine. But I like to use SBL Greek font for my Greek text. So what I could do here, and what I used to do, is just highlight all of this, and then I would go to my font list, and then I would choose SBL Greek, if I can find it, SBL Greek, and it would do that, and then I would come down here to the bottom of my screen, and I would click here where it says English United States, or in some cases English Canada. I would select Greek, I would say do not check, and then click OK. And that then takes care of all the formatting and whatnot. But that's just too many clicks. And I just thought there's got to be a way to do this to a keyboard sequence. Let's make a macro. So I did make a macro. I saved it in my normal .m. So let me pull up my Visual Basic editor. And let me actually see if I can get it on a screen here where you can see it. Alright, so here's my Microsoft Visual Basic editor. This is the normal document template. And I have styles and everything set up in the template already, which will come to bear here just in a moment. that'll be important for one thing. But what I did is I created this macro called toggle Greek font _on. It's a subroutine. I created that, and I did it in the normal.dotm, or dot as it used to be called. And I saved it in there so that every time I launch a new Microsoft Word document, this macro or subroutine is available to me in that document. So it's a pretty simple logic in terms of the programming. First thing I do is I create a variable or declare a variable, string variable, and then I grab the selection, the font name of the selection. So I can select the paragraph or the stretch of text that I would like to set to Greek or not. Or if I just run this subroutine or this macro, which is tied to a keyboard sequence, if I just run it without selecting anything, it's whatever, it takes the selection as wherever the insertion point is, and so where the cursor's blinking. And so I can toggle it, and if it's Times New Roman, it'll switch it over to SPL Greek, and then I can begin to type in SPL Greek. And then I can toggle it back by hitting the key sequence again. So the logic of that is that it checks my curfont variable, which is again set to or whatever the current font is, and it checks to see if it's SPL Greek. If it is not SPL Greek, then switch it to SPL Greek. Selection.font.name equal SPL Greek, and it's put in quotation marks here because that's the name of it, and there's the space and whatnot. That's what works. Now to make the switch of the language so that, let's go back over here to the Word window. All right, so if you want to switch it from, in my case here, English United States to Greek, I would just click on that bar down there, select Greek, and then click OK. So back in the Visual Basic editor, what makes that happen is selection.language ID, and you set it to WD Greek, word Greek. Once you type in selection.language ID equals, it gives you some options, and so you want to find the Greek option. But because it tries to check against modern Greek and not ancient Greek, I also wanted to turn off the spell checking on that, and so that's the no proofing parameter. And so here you have selection.no-proofing equal true. So back over here on the main Word window, so I've already selected Greek as my language, but that last little piece for no proofing would be like checking this box. So that's what we're basically doing in the code over here. All right, so you can see here then, if it's not SPL Greek, it runs these things, switches it to SPL Greek, turns it over to the Greek font in the language bar, and it selects no proofing, so it doesn't do the spell check. If I toggle it again, it will check to see what it is. If it's anything other than Times New Roman, and here's the key to this, basically all I'm doing is setting the font back to whatever the normal style font is. And so I've got active document.styles.wd style normal.font.name. So I have in my normal.dotm file created a style that has Times New Roman as the normal font, Times New Roman 12 point as the normal font. So if it toggles through and it does find SPL Greek, or really anything else, as the font, then it's going to run this part of the condition, and it will set it back to the normal font, which is, again, Times New Roman. Plus, it will also set the language back to English. Looks like maybe I've actually messed that up a little bit, so let's see if we can fix that. English, let's see here, English... I don't have my glasses on. English US. There it is. And then set the no proofing to false, which means that it will check the spelling. And it will check against the English dictionary, the US English dictionary. And then we end the if and we close out the subroutine, and it's ready to rock. So again, back over here in Word, what I can do is once I've pasted in my Greek text from my Bible software, I can, select it. And I have this tied to Shift Control G on my keyboard because it was an available key sequence. Shift Control G. And when I run it, it has now done everything that I asked it to do. In fact, if you look down here at the bottom, notice now that says Greek. If I click this, you'll see Do Not Check Spelling is checked. Let me just show you that I can kind of toggle this back to Times New Roman and turn everything back on by hitting Shift Control G again. And there it goes. So Shift Control G on my keyboard. You can set it to whatever sequence you'd like, but that seems to work pretty well for my hand position on the keyboard, and so I just keep it at that. And we go from there. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you, especially if you are a student in one of my classes and you're needing to work with some Greek. If you have any questions about it, feel free to comment in the space below and let me know. I hope it's helpful. A little bonus footage for you. I started thinking before I actually rendered this video and put it out for consumption that I realized someone may not know how to actually tie a macro that you've written in Visual Basic Editor to a keyboard sequence. So I can show you in Mac, although I'm not quite sure how it's done in Windows. It's been too long since I've used Word in Microsoft Windows, but it will probably be something similar. So in a Mac, the way you do it is you go to the Tools menu, and you click on Customized Keyboard, and here you're going to scroll down and find the Macros category. And you're going to find the macro that you want to toggle with the keyboard sequence. So here's my macro for toggling the Greek font on, and you can see that I've got it currently assigned to Control Shift G. I'm not going to overwrite that, so I just made another one called Testing. And so I'll come down here. I've selected Testing from my commands. I'm going to click in the Current Keys box. Actually, I'll go to the Press New Keyboard shortcut box, and I'm going to do a Shift Control T for testing. Oh, I can't use that one, or I don't want to because it's currently assigned to Insert Time Field. So let's try something different. Let's try it. Yeah, here we go. Command Control T, which is currently unassigned. So Command Control T. So I'll assign that. I'll click OK. Now, Command Control T, and it runs the macro that it's assigned to. So that's how you would do it.